What's going on, y'all? Chuck Nunface here. Gonna take a quick look, not a review or anything like that, but we're gonna look at this guy, the MSI Microtech standard issue. So I'm gonna do my best not to call it the Microtech standard issue in this video. It is kind of annoying because essentially what you're saying when people say the Microtech standard issue is they're saying the Microtech standard issue, and that sounds kind of silly when you do it like that, when you think about it like that. So the MSI. It is a fairly recent release. I believe it came out in early 2023. Has a couple of different iterations, has gone through some design changes, and this one, as you can see right here, is one of the later models from December of 2023. So this is just about a month old. Right now it's the end of January in 2024. And this one has the GRN or FRN scales. So it's the plastic injection molded scales. So they do have a G10 version, and they have this FRN version or GRN or whatever they call it over at Microtech. And I don't believe on this particular Ramlock model that they have an aluminum version of this one. So the thing about this is, of course, it is a Ramlock, so it uses Microtech's new Ramlock locking system. So essentially, a lot of people use it they describe it like an access lock. It's their version of the access lock, but I really think it's more like a Demco Shark lock in feel, certainly, and also design. Also similar to the what the Spyderco Manix does with the ball lock. So you can see right in there, it's got a spring loaded, and so the spring rides along that piston right there or guide rod, and it just pushes the locking mechanism or the locking bar into the a spot on the tang where it'll go in there and just kind of snug everything up. So yeah, it's got a really cool Wharncliffe blade. This one, of course, is, or sheep's foot, I should say, really. This one, of course, is two-tone. That M390 MK steel, which is Microtech's proprietary mix that they did with Bowler, which is what they're putting on their new models. I don't know how much it differs from regular M390. And I also don't know exactly what sort of hardness they're using. Now, historically, Microtech has run their M390 a little soft. I don't think that this is probably going to be any different than what they've done historically. But, it kind of is what it is. One thing I will say right away about the scales, as far as plastic scales go, they do feel, pretty good. They're well done. They feel very solid. I can't get any flex in these scales at all, like you will see with some FRN models. You can get some flex in the scales. I do not find that to be the case with this one. However, I will say this, and at the risk of sounding a bit like a knife snob, it does feel kind of chintzy in hand. It really does. It kind of has a crappy sound, and they don't feel awesome. They don't just... G10 would feel better, aluminum would feel better, titanium would feel better, things like that. They just don't feel great in hand. But, that kind of being said, all in all, this is a budget alternative to the MSI. It runs probably about $75 less than the G10 version, maybe a little bit more than that, less than the G10 version. And everything else is the same about it with the exception of the scales. And so when you kind of factor that into consideration, I think you're getting a pretty strong value on this knife right here. So I definitely like that. It's interesting, when I got this one, the next day, Original Goat announced that they would start taking pre-orders for their aluminum scales for the MSI. And I had been thinking to myself, even when it was on its way to me, I was like, I wonder if I should, look at maybe getting some scales made for this. I don't know who's making them, or if somebody's making micarta or anything like that. And yeah, sure enough, it turns out I was on Instagram, and Original Goat is announcing that they've got scales for the MSI. And I was like, interesting. And so I may have gotten a set of those ordered. And I think they're going to ship in, according to their website, they're going to be trying to ship those in March now. It was going to be middle of February, but now it's looking more like March. You know, once they get everything together and start shipping them out in that first round. And that's cool. So I think I'm going to hold off on my full review of this knife until March. But I did want to just do a quick video on it. Overall impressions are good. You know, the action on it is fantastic. It really is. It flicks out, you know, with a thumb flick, or of course with a middle finger flick, or, you know, of course you can also just manipulate the ram lock if you want to do that. And it's riding on multi-row bearings, and it just drops right down, and there's very little, you know, blade rebound or anything like that. It's really nice. It just kind of drops right in. I have seen other reviewers say, and YouTubers say that, you know, the detent's not very good. Now, it's not a strong detent, and the detent by design, or maybe not by design, but just due to the design, is not going to be the same as a knife that has, you know, like a frame lock, where it's got like a hole in there. The detent is essentially just the strength of, you know, the ram lock in this case pushing up against the blade. So it's kind of going to be just reliant on how strong that spring is and what sort of friction you're creating when it locks into the closed part of the tang. That's probably not the right way to describe it, when it closes in there, and how much, you know, break you're going to get on that. In any case, maybe the earlier models had that sort of issue, but I have not found that to be the case. I think it flies out very nicely, and it feels good, very positive engagement when I'm doing a middle finger flick with the knife. One more thing of note, it's not on camera right now, but I'm kind of banging this against my steering wheel, doing some spine wax. No issues. So I think it was an issue early on with maybe the first run that came out right around SHOT Show of last year, but it looks like they have addressed that, and I'm not getting any sort of issue with this ram lock MSI. So that's going to do it. I think I'm going to hold off before I do a full review in March when I get the original goat scales for this one, but I just kind of wanted to get that out there. If you haven't done so already, I certainly would appreciate you giving me a follow on Instagram at Chuck_Nunface. Go ahead and click the subscribe button. I would certainly appreciate that as well, if you haven't done so already. And yeah, leave a comment, share it with a friend, like the video. I certainly appreciate all of those things, and stay tuned for the next one. Peace.